All right, hey, what's up, everyone? Here we are back for another guide. You can see Volcano Palms here, Desert Valley. I'm going to jump in, do Desert Valley this time. We're going to do a pro campaign 9-hole challenge. I did already do Volcano Palms, so if you'd like to check out that course as well, I have that done. Now, typically, we may be able to get out to this second fairway here with a little bit of a headwind. With wind in the face, we are not going to be able to. So one of the things I may do is go bronze tee and with the backspin grabber ball, and we're just going to kind of play towards the left side of this fairway. It makes it a little bit easier when you do for the second shot. So you'll want to kind of put this out here towards the top half. This is a pretty good wind for going up towards the green. It's hard to get to the green on this one. If I want to, I'd probably have to go Maniac's ball. So this is, I really don't have a lot of choice. If I want to get to this pin, this is what it's going to require. And you can see the hole looks like it's right off the E of my shot guide. So I am going to try to play enough wind. I'm thinking that's maybe too much. But this should be able to get over the mountain, maybe right in here. And there it is, shooting towards the hole. Clutch the rough. Yep, sure enough. I wanted it to catch the rough. It would have came in just a bit hotter and would have been through. It might have stayed on the green, but it would have just rolled through otherwise. So you can see kind of the benefits to the Maniac's ball early on. And we're able to take advantage, get a start off eagle here as well. Volcano Palms in this one are pretty much the easiest two courses. This is a very brutal wind. You'll probably see that I'm probably going to kind of force, if I want to be able to go for this and really pick up some strokes on guys, you're probably going to see I'm going to use a golden tee in a situation like this. I may even waste a torpedo ball. It's hardly a waste if it gets you an extra stroke. This is pretty much what we're looking at. So I'll move the tee box over to the very right so I can get kind of as aggressive as possible. Now, when I hit this, I'm going to do a B3. And when I do this, it's typically going to land a little bit more right. So you can see I can start to cut off some of this edge here, and it shouldn't make it back here. It'll probably end up over here to the right of the waterfalls that you see there. So all I'm going to do is B3. And with the headwind, looks like I was wrong with the headwind. Now, if that would have been a tailwind, I would have been probably spot on there. So I got just a little too aggressive in that case, unfortunately. But feel bad there. I'm still learning this too. And just if that wind wouldn't have been pointed quite that left, we would have been perfectly fine. But with the headwind, you can see that it just lands a little bit shorter. It does end up cutting just a little bit harder in those headwind situations. So this is probably going to cost me, unfortunately. The only thing that I could probably go is all-terrain ball. It's pretty much my only hope here. Now, the only problem with this, I won't be able to stop it if I do this shot. So I won't be able to stop it, but it is a wood, so it is going to come in relatively soft. So this is kind of my only real hope to get to the green still, to give myself a putt. And you'll see I'm kind of about plus 48 yards or so, significant. You're going to need quite the overplay if you do want to get there. As you can see, it barely got there. As I mentioned, can't stop it. Would have been ideal if that would have just clipped that rough, would have been nice. But you can see I gave it everything. It'll typically play maybe like 20, 30 yards uphill. And sometimes you can even get it up there closer. If you can get a 6-wood on that, it may only play about 10 yards uphill. So, you do kind of just need to know situational how to play that. Now, I should be able to give this, a pretty firm run here. So 60 feet, I'm just going to essentially give it the full. If I miss, hopefully it just holds on to the green here. So sure enough, we were able to roll it in, and we start off. We did unfortunately miss the fairway, but we were able to salvage that round. So what the all-terrain ball does is it basically brings it back, restores the fairway is essentially what that all-terrain ball did back there. So it let me be in the fairway even though I wasn't in the fairway. Now this will typically play about 20 some yards uphill as well. So I'm thinking something along the lines of this. I'm either going to go bronze, at least bronze. Should probably go silver, but I really don't want to waste it. So I'm hoping this just creeps on. I really can't go driver too well here. Well, you know what? Driver's actually probably pretty good in this situation. So there is a nice upslope. This is probably, honestly, a pretty good shot to go driver. So I may just switch this up. Go back to standard. Oops. Probably go grabber, driver. This is a very isolated case. I'll typically play this maybe about 20, 25 yards uphill because especially with the upslope, the ball does tend to land a bit short. So if your club says 260, you'd need the hole at about 235 typically, which is kind of more in line with what you're seeing with what I'm doing with this driver. However, the driver comes in lower than woods, so you're going to need a little bit extra. I'm essentially going to go full here. I don't anticipate this going long. But what it does do is it's going to bring it in a lot lower. There won't be nearly as much wind affected, so it won't, play like an 11 wind. It more plays like a 4 would be kind of a way of describing the shot. The only thing that I do have to do is be just a little bit more perfect with the way that I push, but as you can see, it looks right about pin high. So it comes in very nice in that situation. And I told you this is kind of like an isolated hole for that club. You typically want to try to stay away from your driver because it comes in so low, but when you land it in upslopes like that, it's not necessarily a deal breaker. Now this is one of the more interesting holes on the game. They've really created like a nice funnel there. If you can actually go and ride that funnel through there, you can potentially go for this green in 2. Now we didn't get the best wind in the world to go for it. I may just try to get aggressive. I mean, we might as well. I'm trying to put together a guide. I'm going to stay off the tee though. As you can see, I'm not going to use a tee, but it requires a really perfect shot to be able to thread it. Like if you can get, oh no, I'm going to just end up using one of my mulligans for that. I cannot believe that happened. I didn't even think that I was ready to swing yet. But I don't want to, waste this opportunity to, and as I mentioned, this may just creep on. What I typically see, we could essentially try to go for this. Otherwise, you're going to have to see me go for a layup. I may just try it here. This isn't the greatest pin, but it's also not the worst either. Ideally, we'd love to see it back there in that back left up there. But if I'm going to go for it, I'm going to need to use a Maniacs ball anyway. So what I'll typically do is play it maybe right in here. We want to make sure that it lands to the right into the open green. And another thing, we're going to have trouble stopping this ball. Now, the Maniacs does bring it in with higher loft, so it is going to stop somewhat reasonably. So without the Maniacs ball, you have to keep in mind, you'd never be able to get this to the green. It would land very similar to that last hole. It would land more in like the 260, 270 range. You'll never be able to get it there. This may just creep to the 294. And it's only because of the tailwind probably. So let's give this a go. Just see if we can just squeak this one there. Worst case scenario, we bust it in the water. And I'll be able to show you a second guide. But as I mentioned, it's going to be very hard to stop the ball. And you can see almost no bet. I was trying to, just get it over in there. And that just goes to show you how low that driver comes in and how little wind you have to play. And that's kind of what I was mentioning on the last hole. Now, we are going to try to, I guess, go aggressive here. So let's just try to push through this rough here, full power, see what it looks like. Nope. Well, still didn't take the break, but as you can see, there's no threat of ever putting it like super hard off the green. I went full there and it essentially just stops right past the hole. Now, on tough locations and on downslopes, it can still roll off the green into the water. So you do want to still be careful with that, but you can see that you can kind of get away with that, and it gave me an opportunity. If I would have drove that a little bit better, we would have been able to hold that. So if I would have just got that just what 5 more yards to the right, 4 yards to the right, we would have had a straight in putt, and if we could have just executed, we would have been able to make that one. So let's keep going here. I may go bronze tee just to get a little bit of extra distance. And I'll typically aim maybe right around here, and we're going to do a B1 shot on this hole. B1 is very controlled fade. B3 is a very controlled slice. So you'll see that we'll be able to typically hit those with precision. Now, one thing that you want to note on this hole, it's always a downslope. So if the pin is in the back, you could maybe use the green and bring in an iron low. But you'll probably want like a 8-7 iron. You'll want to get a little bit longer off the tee here. And you could essentially avoid using a grabber and just use the green because you have so much green to work with. However, for this shot, you're going to see that I'm going to definitely use the grabber, and we're going to try to land pretty much on the pin here. So I'm plus 12 yards on the club right now, and the wind. I feel pretty good that it's pretty close to full club here. Plus with the downslope, I want to make sure that I don't land short, so I do have to be somewhat cautious. I can maybe come off a yard or two that I feel comfortable with. I don't want to pull off too much. So I did hit 99%. And as you can see, it just kind of gently rolls through, but I think I did pull that to the right as well. I felt very right on my push through. So here you can see we're able to roll this in. Keep our birdie streak going. Now, this is a very tough hole. A lot of slope in this green, so you'll always want to land left. You typically, I think this is borderline. This should get there. It's close. It's close. It might not make it to the pin, so another thing I can do is maybe just increase 3 yards here. So I'll go bronze tee. It doesn't play that much downhill, so you can see that 280. I'm at 270 with the tee boost and 281 to the pin. I think this is going to almost make it there. So you'll see that it's almost plays. You might land the ball maybe 5 to 8 yards short of whatever the yardage says, typically. But I do have the tailwind, which is going to help. And then also with the bronze tee, just giving me a little bit of a boost. But I do got to make sure that I land kind of left of the hole because there's a lot of slope that we need to use. We're going to go full here now. And as you can see, it's closer than I wanted. You can see I didn't make it to the hole. I probably, could have played that just a tad bit more aggressive. 39 is not my ideal. I don't want to be 39 foot. I'm thinking right around here. I'll typically try to play this through the break, which could be risky. This could roll down into the water. But I do prefer kind of taking a chance here. And sure enough, there it does roll down into the water. So it is something that you have to worry about. It looks like we're getting a re-tee here. So if I want to keep that going, I could essentially use a mulligan. I'm not that worried about it. I'm more about just kind of trying to show you guys a little bit how the game functions more so than anything as the scoring. So we're going to do kind of the same thing. We're going to overhit it into the water again, but we're going to play more break this time. Up, and now we're on the other side of the hole. I think I pulled that. I'm pretty sure I pulled it. So it was probably the right line, but I just pulled my putt. So there it is. Much better putt that time. It was pretty much the same. So 2 shots in the water. If you want to go for that make, that's the best way. And then you just got to kind of risk it. Alternatively, you can do a little bit more speed play and you'll have to play more break. So I do like to bring it in with some speed. It gives it, it's much more prudent for me to learn the game this way and to go more with like a risky shot there because it's going to bring it in with more pace, more chance to hit the hole. So do keep that in mind as to why I'm essentially risking that one. So here's what I'm going to do for this one. Thinking torpedo. So let's go torpedo. I'm aiming towards the right of this fairway. I am going to go B1 here. So one of the things that I'm trying to do is essentially force this drive up here. What this allows me to do is consider going for this green. I wouldn't be able to get it otherwise. So you can see, you know, I still might not be up here far enough. Very close. I would need to go 3-wood maniacs, I'm thinking. As you can see, it's probably barely sneaking on to that front. I mean, it is tight. I mean, I almost needed to go gold tee off there just to really blast this down here a little bit farther if I wanted to go for this. But, you know, I do feel like for this round, we should probably go for it a little bit. I'm not sure I'm going to clear. I can't clear this entire mountain, but I should be able to clear most of it. So I'm thinking maybe just like a controlled draw here, kind of like this. Maybe we'll get, and I couldn't quite get over that. So you can see it didn't get over the mountain. However, this is almost, you know, you can almost treat this as a layup. So when you do make a mistake, we're technically okay because I can still get this up and down. And that second shot doesn't earn me any points anyway. So I'm not losing any points for my round by going for that. As long as I can see the pin on the next shot, that's the big key. And that's why I don't mind kind of pressing and going there. So this should be relatively full. You can see I'm playing a substantial amount of wind. I do want to make sure when I'm at this higher elevation that I'm accounting for the wind. And oh wow, I can't believe that came up that short. Man, I'm surprised by that because I was so much on higher ground with so here you can see I pretty much messed that shot up. I should have used no grabber. And I actually thought, since it was downwind way up that hill, like if that would have been on flat ground, I would have just played it like that without the grabber. But I used the grabber because I figured that it would probably carry a bit farther, and then still didn't. That's a little disappointing. But if I'm able to roll this in, I should earn some more points for my round anyway. I'm thinking somewhere around the neighborhood of almost to my hat here. If I can get perfect ball through here, there's a good chance that I can make this one. I made it anyway. So as long as I'm, you know, straight through with my push, you know, I feel pretty good about being able, and I earn more points that way anyway. So you can see I'll still put together some nice points there. Now, this is not the best tee box. Sometimes they'll give it to us up, and we didn't get it. So one of the things that you'll typically need to do when looking at this is you'll probably have to go golden. You have to go one iron here because it's the only way you can punch it through this tree. Now I'll have to make sure that I carry this far enough, and I don't think this is enough yet. It's close. This is close. That's why I'm trying to bring the silver tee in, to just get just a little bit extra carry. I'm thinking something along the lines of sniper or super sticky or super backspin. You know, this still might not get there. 264, 244. It's very close. I mean, the tailwind's helping, but it might not be helping enough. So another thing you may need to do is you may need to go golden tee. So what I can do is I can position this to where, you know, I assume that the wind will be best. So I'm thinking maybe right around here. We'll go high loft. This shouldn't add much, but the biggest thing that it does is it should give me a little bit of extra distance to hopefully carry enough. I shanked it. So very disappointing. Man, I guess we're going to mulligan because there's no point of showing you guys that. So waste my golden tee, waste my ball. Pretty much a pointless shot that I just hit. So you do got to be just a little bit more careful. Hopefully you can avoid the shank. That's much better. It still doesn't get there. I knew it was going to be close. It was probably still 6 or 7 yards short. But, you know, this is part of the learning experience too. So now you can see with where they dropped us and what we're going to have to do. If we would have went for the layup, you know, more or less what I'd do is I'd, you know, on a tight pin like that, I'd essentially play this part of the green over here and just try to funnel it down there a little bit. So I'm thinking something along the lines of this. The sand wedge here is probably at about 52 right now, would be my guess, 50, 52. So I'm at about 80% club, however, significantly downwind. And we're going to have to play some wind as well. So I need to make sure, you know, this is probably going to make it land over here towards this edge a little bit. So I got to make sure that I'm significantly up here. And 70, 75%. Let's just try. And you can see it comes in a bit hot. But I didn't want to, you know, get too aggressive there with such a big tailwind. I mean, that's just such a tough shot. It's almost better just to, you know, make sure that we stay safe here. And there you have it. You know, we got our par. Not going to, you know, with the mistakes that we do have on the card, we're not going to get our 2-star, which I like to try to like stay for 2-star, but I'm not going to make it there today. Now, what I'll typically do on a side wind or a headwind is I'll typically hit a percentage shot similar to what you saw me do on Volcano 17. Volcano Palms 17. So if you want to check that over. However, when I get a tailwind in this situation, even though it's an upslope 10, I should be able to bring this in without having it come down that hill too much. So this shouldn't come back on me very much. So if I want to go, another thing that I can do, you know, to keep the balls off from having to use balls, is I can essentially go like this. And, you know, what's my overplay here? This wind is first off significant. So I'm looking at 98 probably changing to 70, 80. So 80. Let's call it 80, changing it to 80 because we are playing percentage. Might play it just a little bit less. So 80 out of 128, we're looking, I don't know, 65%, somewhere in there. And this is just kind of a nice way to kind of, it looks like it's coming up just a bit short. I didn't actually catch the percentage that I hit, but that's, you know, just one of the things. You can review that percentage and then come back and play it again and be like, well, last time I did this, and I can make an improvement upon. But the one thing that this does is it does kind of increase your putt. You can see I'll get 40 some feet, which if I can roll this in, looks like I just pulled it left, just barely. So if you can roll that in, you know, you earn an extra, you know, 40 feet on your card. So a little bit sloppy there. I'm only going to get 1 star. And with, you know, as aggressive as I played that, you can see, you know, I kind of cost myself a couple places there. But I wanted to at least put together a guide that's kind of showing you guys the shots that are capable of, as opposed to going for, you know, just trying to get, you know, my 9, 10 under and just playing it safe. It's better that I just take some risks and show you the shots that you should be thinking about. So hopefully you find that helpful. Good luck with that, and I will see you guys next time.